Geographers, hello. Paper 3 skills. A few students have asked me to do some kind of voiceovers on exam technique, how to tackle sources, and bit of metacognition. I think they were hinting at where I talk you through my thought process. So it might be a bit of a lengthy video, this one actually, because I'm gonna start from scratch. So analyse then. There are two, there are two questions on paper 3, always in the middle of the paper, normally questions 3 and 4 worth 8 marks apiece. 8 marks apiece. And if you have a look at the command word, so what it's telling you to do, yeah? Command means you must do this, otherwise you're gonna shed marks, alright? So, use skills, alright? Skills pay the bills, remember. So skills, it could be just quoting data and kind of using some simple maths to make sense of the source. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's not kind of even GCSE maths really. It's probably Key Stage 3. Means, ratios, tallies, percentages, means, ranges. Simple stuff. So don't forget your calculator. So use these skills to break up and systematically break up the source into pieces. Alright? Now, there needs to be some logic and rationale behind how you are breaking the source up. So we're going to have a look at a few examples in a minute and how I'd tackle them. But I've just marked a mock exam, and students, you've listened to me, so well done. You've broke it up. But you've not really put any thought into how you break it up. You've just thought, got to break it up. I'll talk about country X, I'll talk about country Y, I'll talk about this, I'll talk about that. And you haven't really took a step back and took an overview of, well, what is the general overall relationship or pattern, what this source is showing? Because the general or overall kind of what it's showing you will affect how you break it up. So there needs to be some logic. Now, for that to happen, you need thinking time, you need planning time, yeah? I mean, just setting off and writing these questions, you are going to be toast, right? So, if you don't listen to that advice and plan on the source and take at least 3 minutes, which is a long time, at least 3 minutes, getting your head around what the source is showing you, then you might as well, you're not going to get much further into your answer's going to be a mess. There's no way to put it, right? So if you're a student that don't seek value in planning, you don't listen to that advice, good luck to you, because you're going to do pants, right? Guaranteed. So use your skills to break it up. I like the word logically better, systematically or logically, right? Into pieces. And then once you've done that, analysis of the source, you need to show some knowledge and understanding to make sense of that source, alright? So how can you do that? Well, you can make connections between the parts, yeah? If you've got a graph showing GDP versus wages, for instance, then they're your parts, yeah? You need to make a link between those two indicators. If you've got a table with lots of different development indicators, like we'll have a look at in a minute, you do the maths, analyse one column of indicators. Is the explanation that explains that pattern or that found in another column with another indicator? Yeah, you can use this indicator to explain this one. So you're making links between the parts. And the other way you can do it is through showing your geography kind of knowledge and understanding from A level, alright? So if we have a look at the examiner's levels-based mark scheme, which we get, there's 4 marks for AO1 and there's 4 marks for AO3. So AO1 marks, accurate and relevant geographical knowledge and understanding throughout. Alright. AO3 marks, critically investigates the question or issue to produce a coherent logical analysis of data and evidence, making logical connections to relevant ideas. Now, if you have a look at what that or different ways that you can do that, all right, for AO1 and AO3, what are the different tools that you can use to do these things to level 3? Number 1, again, quote data liberally. All right, if I'm reading an answer and I see 2 numbers, and on the source there's 30 countries, you're not quoting enough. Yeah, simple as that. So quote data and do simple maths each time you quote some data. That's a good rule of thumb, right? Quoting data is 1, and think, well, how can I do some basic manipulation, just like you've done in your coursework, to make sense of what that data's showing. Ratios, summing and tallying things, percentages, percentage difference between 2 figures, percentage change over a period of time, averages, the range between the lowest and the highest values. And the skill is choosing the appropriate one. All right, that is a skill. You only get better at that through practice. But if you quote data when you make a point, then that's a good start. All right. Tip number 2, have a plan. Yeah, logically break it up into parts, not randomly break it up into parts. That is one thing I've learned from marking these exams. To do that, excuse me for my daughter screaming. She's been poorly, and my mum's here looking after her, so you're going to hear probably like some kind of comedy sketch in the background. Yeah, it should be quite amusing actually. Probably more interesting than this video, but hey ho. So you've got to think. Yeah, you can't just set off answering these questions. If I was tackling this exam, I'd spend minutes at least planning and getting my head around the source, right? Going into headless chicken mode and writing 3 sides for an 8-mark question is not going to get you many marks at all. Yep. A skillfully crafted, well thought, critical answer showing skills that's 3/4 of a side can get level 3. Yeah. The sweet spot for the amount required to score 8 out of 8 on these questions is a side, and that won't be a side of waffle, it'll be a side of skillfully crafted analysis. All right, so I'm not saying write a side and you're going to get 8 out of 8, but if it doesn't matter how good it is, if you're writing half a side, yeah, you're not going to be in level 3. There's not enough there. Yeah, some of the best answers I marked in this summer's real exam were a side, spot on a side. Yeah, they give you a side space, and you can easily score full marks in that side. Some of them still scored full marks, a side and a half. If you're writing more than a side and a half for this question, you're not probably doing it skillfully, right? You're waffling. So side to a side and a half at the most. Yep, side and a half at the most. Right, so how can you logically break it up? Well, start with the general or overall pattern, trend, or relationship. Is it a positive relationship? Is it a negative relationship? Is it a strong relationship pattern or trend? Yeah, so start with overall. Quote some data, do some maths to back that up, and then can we maybe explain why, or using key terms or link the parts. Once you've done that, then you can start breaking it up into more specifics. So depending on the source, they could throw anything at you. Countries, places, indicators. Yeah, differences, similarities, anomalies. I can't spell it, but anomalies. Outliers and exceptions, they could be one of the parts. All right. The AO1 marks, and I guess AO3 as well, to a relevant geographical idea, is making links between the parts and explaining the parts. use key terms from your topics. If you're talking about, globalization and you're using that as an idea to explain the parts, then I'm expecting to see a key term from that. Global flow, global influence, whatever the key word is. So as an examiner, if I see key terms from topics to explain the parts, then I'm happy. Yeah, I'm putting it towards level 3. If you suggest reasons that are a little bit more flimsy and vague, well, you're probably somewhere in, if it's really bad, level 1, but maybe possibly level 2. So have a go. Still, if you're not 100% certain, still suggest a reason, because examiners don't negatively mark. Alright? So if you suggest a reason for a pattern or a part you've just broken it up into, and it's like we think it's wrong, we're not going to kind of knock you for that, but we just can't credit it either. So you don't lose. Yep. So be confident and gamble. Key terms, also synoptic concepts, could be used to help explain the parts. We're going to look at a source in a minute where the key concept of inequality, interdependence, globalization, they can be the answers themselves to explain the parts. Any other knowledge of the places or locations from the sources, you might be lucky. Yeah, you might get a source showing Angola, Congo, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and you're not expected to know anything about those countries. But if you do, and you know something about the political regime just from watching the news or current affairs, and you can suggest, well, this could be a reason that explains this pattern, trend, or relationship, then use your own general and wider knowledge of places, locations, current affairs, by all means. And at the start of answers, then you can define your key terms in the first line. So a bit of diffle to kick off with to get an easy AO1 starter. The critical side of it could come from a bit of maths, but it could also come from the actual source and the data itself. So the easiest way is just question the reliability of the source. All right, what's missing from the source that would be useful? Is the sample size big enough? What about the sample or the countries selected? Can you critique that? Has it got limitations such as these things? I'd just get into the habit of sticking a generic one in, such as there are 10 countries shown on the source. Yeah, you could include more, such as this country, which would be really useful to have a look at as well. So yeah, sample size, what's missing that would be useful. If you get a table showing key indicators and there's 8 of them, well, maybe there could be 12. Yeah, so it's really easy to get that in. Strength of relationships. If you look at something like a graph or a table and you don't think there's a really strong relationship or line of best fit, or there's not that many significant differences, which they will do, they will put in data sets where it's messy, all right, then just think, well, would this data lead me to reject or accept a null hypothesis? Would it be statistically significantly different? So if you don't think it would be, just question it and just say, I don't think this data would be statistically significant on a Spearman's rank test, or it wouldn't be statistically significant on a Man-Whitney U. Yep. Could the source be biased? Maybe. Right then. So that's a bit of an intro. The 14-minute one. Right. So structure as a guide. Diffle. So define key terms or show an understanding of what those key terms mean in the first line, all right, from the question. And then we're going to follow a basic structure as a starting point until you get confident of make a point that answers the question, then quote some data and use maths at the same time. So quoting data is the first step, which we must do. Use some basic manipulation to actually help you analyse that data. And then either link the parts and or explain the parts or suggest reasons for the parts. Alright? And critical analysis comes at the end. So what are we expecting? If you've got 4 good, succinct, kind of PQL paragraphs, that will be enough to get level 3. Alright, so his first point could be a general overall point, quote data, use maths, explain. And then we can start breaking it up into 3 more parts. Alright, so it could be an outlier and an extreme, or it could be breaking it up in some logical way into 3 other parts. Follow the steps, quote data, use maths, explain them. Yep, and bang your critical analysis in at the end. Alright, so you should be feeling a bit more confident that actually these questions aren't as daunting. But it is skills. Skills pay the bills. Right then, let's have a look at what type of thing you could get. When I can figure out how this works. Right, so I'm going to talk you through kind of how I'd attack it. First thing is box the command word so you know it's an analyse question. It'll just jog your memory that actually these are the things I've got to do. Right, so box the command word. Oops. Right, it's a relationship question. It's not a trend question. It's not a difference or similarities. It is a relationship question. How is one variable linked to another? All right, and the variables are income per capita, natural resource exports. All right. Analyse the relationship between income per capita and natural resource exports. We've got a scatter graph. So I always start with the title. A scatter graph of natural resource exports versus income per person. That is what the resource is showing. Start with the title. Then look at your variables. Yeah, makes sense. Fossil fuel, minerals and ore exports as a percentage of GDP versus GDP per capita along the y-axis. Alright. Next thing I'm going to do is let's have a look at the units and the axes. Because this one they've been a bit naughty. They've inversed the axis and the unit. So they started with 100% at this end and 0% at this end. But then up the y-axis, they've gone from a more conventional kind of 0 up to 16,000. Alright, so I've got a bit of, it took me a minute to get my head around what it's showing, what the question's asking for, etc. Right, so I need some logical, systematic way of breaking it up. So it's a relationship question between an x and a y variable. Roughly, draw my line of best fit. And I'll do this on the source. I'll actually draw it, yeah? So be careful again. It looks like it's increasing, but because the axis is inversed, then it's actually a negative relationship or a negative correlation, yeah? Right then. How strong is that relationship? How close are the points plotted to the line? Not very. There's quite a wide spread. Would it pass a Spearman's rank? I very much doubt it. Alright? So again, my critical analysis has come in straight away. Alright? I've got a general point. Yeah. And I've got some critical analysis in there as well. And now I'm going to start breaking it up. So, how can you break this up logically or systematically? Well, I can sort of do it by corners, really. What about these 4 countries here? These have got high percentage fossil fuel, mineral and ore exports as a percentage of annual GDP, and they're all over 80%, aren't they? Yeah. So, and I count the countries. There's 4 of them. Yep. I've used the source. I might quote some numbers. So above 80%, and also under 6,000 GDP per capita. That's one component part. All right. I then might go to these 3, because these 3 countries have all got exports as a percentage of GDP that's under 30%. That's fine. A guesstimate's fine, by the way, with these. And they've all got GDP per capitas over 10,000. All right. And then I might have a look at these. So they don't export much to provide them with a GDP, but they've got really low GDPs. Yeah. Again, you can quote some data, you can read off. Right then, so what might be the reasons to explain some of these parts? Well, part of this answer could come in with your critical analysis as well. So for instance, what do we know about any of these countries? Well, Kenya, Cambodia, they don't export much in the way of fossil fuels, minerals and ores. Maybe they export something else. Coffee, for instance, from Kenya. Maybe their GDP comes from that. So as a critique, I could be thinking, well, why aren't we showing food products? Yeah. Argentina again, South America, cattle ranching, corned beef, they export something else. Malaysia, what is it doing to make its GDP per capita quite high, or high compared to the other countries? Maybe it's earning its GDP through financial services and like the tertiary and quaternary sectors. Costa Rica, bananas and coffee rather than fossil fuels, minerals and ores. These countries in Africa that the source is based on, quite low GDPs, especially the DRC. You could work out percentage difference if you really wanted to, but low GDPs. Maybe the prices of the products that they're exporting are really cheap. Yep. Maybe supply and demand and global forces means that the two dependent on exporting those materials. Yep. Maybe it indicates the level of development. It's not very well developed. And then, like I said, any other knowledge that you might, Jamaica, tourism possibly, Egypt again, tourism. So yeah, there's some logic to how I've broken it up. I've not just if I clear this, I've not just gone Morocco, Indonesia, Jamaica. I'll talk about Angola next. I'll just lift off a bit for Argentina, Malaysia, back to, yeah, there's a strategy and there's a rationale in the way that I've broke it up. All right. Next one. Right, this was in my lot. This was in your paper 3 exam. So, study figure 4 in the resource booklet. It shows GDP per capita. Again, I'm going to get my brain chewed into the source. I'm going to scribble all over this. GDP per capita and national average salaries for selected countries. Analyse, box it, the relationship between GDP per capita and national average salaries. All right then. So, define the key term of GDP per capita. Define what national average salary is, possibly. Could there be any problems with these indicators? Straight away, you've got a bit of critiquing. Right, so I've defined the key terms, and I might even think, ooh, I know that there's maybe kind of flaws or limitations to these indicators. Get it in, all AO1 marks, which is good. Right then, how can I break this up? Well, first thing I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to look at the title. GDP per capita, national average salaries for selected developed countries. So if I'm critiquing it, straight away I'm going to be thinking, well, are there any developed countries that aren't on this list that maybe might be useful? I'm going to think about that for later, just hold that thought. Yep. Right, so the orange is GDP per capita, the blue is national average salary. Let's have a look then. So, it seems like all these countries to the right of Hong Kong have higher national average salaries than GDP per capita, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line. If I can figure out how to use this stupid tool. It's irritating. Why ain't that working? Alright, here we go. So all these have higher national average salaries than GDP per capita, right? I could do a tally. Just count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12. Right. This side of the line, it's the opposite. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 countries that have got higher GDP per capita than average salary. So generally speaking, national average salary is higher than GDP per capita, and it's a ratio of 12:4, which is what, 3:1. Bit of maths. Yep, that's the general relationship, isn't it? But if we look, is it clear? Would it pass a Spearman's? Would it be statistically significant if we did a Spearman's rank? You don't need to know the answer, and definitely don't do a Spearman's rank. But if we're being critical, then critical analysis, I'd probably say it's not statistically significant if we used a Spearman's rank. Alright. Okie dokie then. And if we look at the actual relationship of these 12 countries, is there a large difference between GDP per capita and national average salary? Well, just have a look. New Zealand's pretty similar. Finland's similar. Sweden's similar. Canada's similar. Austria's similar. Yeah, so you can tally up your countries again. Generally speaking, there's not that much difference, or not that strong a relationship between GDP per capita and national average salary. They are pretty similar. So you might have a few outliers in this section. Denmark, for instance, yeah, Denmark's an exception in this section because there's quite a wide gap. You could also possibly argue Australia, UK possibly, yeah, but there's a lot of others that, where the relationship's not clear. All right, you've got a few examples where there is a difference. Right, if we have a look on this side then. If we have a look, which is the country with the biggest gap? Hong Kong, definitely. It's got a big gap between GDP per capita, national average salary is a lot lower. Yeah, same for Singapore as well. So Hong Kong and Singapore, there's a real kind of difference in there. Whereas Norway, similar. All right, so that's another part. Luxembourg's quite similar as well. So we've got a general view. 12 countries where salaries higher than GDP per capita, 4 where it isn't. Of these 12, generally speaking, it's not that significant a difference, apart from these 3 countries. The countries where GDP per capita is higher than national average salary, you've got 3. You've got 3 countries, Luxembourg, Singapore and Hong Kong, where there's a big difference. Again, you can do a bit of maths and kind of work out the percent. You can work out the percentage difference, couldn't you, for instance? All right then. So we've done the descriptive bit. Let's start thinking about maybe how the parts are linked. Right. You might have some kind of general knowledge of some of these countries, or your own knowledge, or you might have implicitly studied them in your A-level course. Think about concepts and ideas, though, that cut across all topics. Well, and some of these will be suggestions. You might not be 100% certain, but I'm thinking in terms of dependency and kind of inequality. All right, so Hong Kong. If GDP per capita is a lot higher than what people are earning, because you've defined your key terms, you should know the difference between them 2 terms, then maybe that's suggesting that there's high levels of inequality. Maybe income distribution is really wide. You've got billionaires in banking and finance, maybe in Singapore, and in Hong Kong, it's HSBC and a lot of the world's kind of major banks. It's a financial centre. Wherever you get stockbrokers, bankers, financiers, you're going to get some executive earning billions, and then 3 blocks away you might have poverty-stricken underclass kind of living in poverty conditions. So inequality in income might be an explanation of that. Again, it links to kind of winners and losers of globalization. TNCs maybe of increased profits. Maybe TNCs have increased profits and not put wages up. So winners and losers from globalization. Maybe TNCs have took steps to make more profit and not share it kind of through the country. So for instance, maybe they've exploited tax loopholes, maybe they've offshored and kind of exploited tax havens across the world so they don't pay a lot of tax. Maybe the tax rates across these countries are very different. If you look, a lot of these are in the EU. Maybe trade blocks and kind of being part of an IGO might provide some of the explanations for this. But what else is there? Let's have a look. You could even link it to possibly suggest maybe political systems and the type of governance in the country. I don't know if there's a date on this source, but maybe the fact that we've had a Conservative government since 2010 might explain why the UK has got a bit of a gap. So political systems and governance might be an answer. All right. Now the critical side of things, if you're going to critique this source, like you say, is it statistically significant? Probably not going to be on a Spearman's rank. What other countries are missing? So there are 16 developed countries on figure 4. Why haven't we got data from BRICS countries? Again, showing a knowledge and understanding across a topic. Like, be interested if we had China, India, Brazil, etc., wouldn't it? Yeah, you've got more than enough to go there. Alright, so Margaret, what I want you to do is write that answer up. Alright, try and get 8 out of 8 in a side or less. Okie dokie. Yeah, and don't just kind of regurgitate only what I've just said. Kind of, you might know, you might have some, they will give you a lot to go at in the exam, so you might know some reasons why, for instance, New Zealand has got a really close figure between GDP per capita and national average salary. One student actually talked about New Zealand, which was good. Norway, for instance, what do you know about Norway or any of these countries? So sometimes the explanation for the component parts, different students will talk about different countries. That is perfectly fine. Yeah, so don't feel that you need to talk about every single country and know about all of it, because you don't. You just need a bit of confidence to suggest for a selection of these. All right. Right. Once you've wrote the perfect answer to the last question, all right, in a side or less, yeah, at least 3/4 of a side though, don't be bone idle. What I want you to do then is practice. You answered this question in the mock exam, so what I want you to do before next lesson is bring your perfect answer to the previous question, but I want you to plan your points for this one. Alright, so how did you go about breaking it up? Yeah, I will just say that the results of the measurements of globalization, well, the contrasting results, well, maybe that's a little bit misleading in the question actually, because the results, one I'm getting really irritated with this. That graph is one result. This graph is showing the other results. Alright, so contrasting results between the graphs. Yep. Think about your elements. Think about kind of the logic and how you might be able to go about breaking that up. Then think about the reasons or linking the parts to help you explain. Alright, pull in your geography, pull in some synopticity, do quote some data, countries, and maths, and do a bit of simple maths, and then critique it. Alright, bullet point all those things, bring it to next lesson, because we're going to be doing an answer in time conditions, and we're going to see if we can kind of do it in time conditions. Alright, and I know this video has been a bit disjointed because I've got my daughter and my mum in the other room. It's quite fun. Alright, ciao.